Okay, before I open up the game, alright, my mouse cursor is off. My mouse cursor is off. Good. I needed to double check that before I began this episode. Yeah, I'm currently editing part 12 right now. The previous episode that came out a week or so ago, so, I just now realized when I filmed that episode, I left my mouse cursor on. But anyways, hello everybody, this is Michael McKinnell's Call Me, and welcome back to Course Party Blood Drive. And this time, instead of playing Chapter 07, we will be playing Extra Chapter 04. So, without further ado, here is Blood Drive Extra Chapter 04. Memories, like beautiful dreams. Oh, I guess we're Aiko this time. Wait, is this going to explain how she got away from Inamaru? Oh. Through my hazy vision, all I could see was a red pair of eyes, cutting through the darkness like flames. I could barely breathe, and I kept drifting in and out of consciousness. I wonder why. Why, at a time like this, would that sticker photo I kept on my desk be the first thing to pop into my mind? I know they say your life flashes before your eyes before you die, but this was only a single page from my past, albeit a very dear one.
夢のような一日だったわ。
I could hear their laughter in the back of my head. The sky was a beautiful crimson-purple fusion. And the sweetness of that cake from the cafe was still on my tongue as we entered the photo booth.
いつの間にこんなことになったの？私は何かどこかで間違ったのかしら？
Somehow, the answers to these questions seemed less interesting to me by the moment as events from my past replayed themselves within me. It was like I'd gone back in time. And this is the story all about how things went to shit. Oh, wait a second, I could have said how things went upside down. God, I ruined the joke. I guess I'm never going to be a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And then, all of a sudden, the sound of a door being thrown open brought me back to my senses.
さやか買ってきたよさやかお待たせさやか寂しくはなかったかな待ちくたびれて泣いてたんじゃないのかな
うるさいわね犬丸ナホタンが寝てるんだから静かにしなさいよ
This is quite the introduction to Sayaka. I'd heard every word and raised my head to survey the situation. Though I first regained my focus by staring at the clock above the blackboard, which slowly registered in my newly awakened mind as indicating it was now 4 o'clock.
寝すぎたかしら
Oh, are we now? Wait, are we now or Aiko? I must have been exhausted from working on that draft late into the night. But with the deadline fast approaching, I had little other choice. I also must have been out for a really long time, as I had absolutely no memories of anything from 6th period. I looked around me, but the only other people in the room were Sayaka and Inamaru.
ごめんねナホタン起こしちゃったもっと寝ててもいいんだよ
Sayaka seemed to have noticed I had woken up, and was running over to check on me. But I just shook my head, first to indicate no, then much harder to shake off the drowsiness.
大丈夫 それよりさやか、私が起きるのを待っていたの？待たせちゃってごめんね。なんでナホタンが謝るの？もう私とナホタンの中でそんな遠慮はなしだよ。
Why are they kind of getting Sayaka uwu speech? Well, it's not really uwu speech, but why is she not saying her L's? Why is she saying W instead of L? Sayaka flashed me an overzealous, forced smile, which I returned, though mine was quite natural. Hers probably was too, actually, though I couldn't say for sure. Either way, it was super cute.
ところで犬丸、頼んだものはどこ？
The tone in her voice changed completely, and her smile disappeared, too, now that she was addressing Inamaru instead of me.
さやかがその細くて可憐な手を差し伸べてくれたなら、俺はどんな質問にも心を込めて答えさせてもらうよ。そう、例えば俺がさやかをどれだけ愛しているかについてとかね。
そういうのほんといいから、頼んだものはどこなのって聞いてるの。
いつもの恥ずかしがりがまた出たね。まったく、いつになったらさやかは素直になってくれるのかな。
Haruyuki Inamaru was our mutual classmate and a childhood friend of Sayaka's. Everything he did for Sayaka. His whole world seemed to revolve around her, and sometimes she'd play along, making his day. But that hadn't happened for a while now. He had the blood of an Ismo priest running through his brains, not God damn it. Let me reread that, I'm sorry. He had the blood of an Ismo priest running through his veins. Izumo, not Ismo. Izumo. Let me try that one more time, I'm sorry. He had the blood of an Izumo priest running through his veins, which gave him a considerable amount of spiritual ability, though he never seemed to like having that brought up.
さやか、何か犬丸くんに頼んでたの？うん、おやつ。ナホタンも一緒に食べよう。いいけど、ここで？
If you're hungry, you should just eat on the way home. That's what I'd always been taught. No, actually, we did eat on the way home, all the time. So I guess this particular hunger somehow ran deeper.
どうしてもね、お腹が空いちゃって、我慢できないからここで食べたいなって。
さやか、持ってきたよ。
Inamaru, who left the room without our knowledge a few seconds earlier, suddenly burst back in, with a flatbed cart in tow, squeaking away. He brought a cart! And I could hardly believe what was on it.
じゃっじゃーん。どうだいさやか、すごい量だろ。
Boxes and boxes of fatty, sugary, pre-packaged foods lined every square inch of the transport.
ケーキにワッフル、ドーナツ。あ、最近できたばかりのプレッツェル屋さんの箱も。
Add to that cookies, pies, macaroons, even ice cream. He had all the bases covered for sure.
やったー美味しそういただきます
To my surprise, Sayaka beelined for one of the boxes, setting in motion what may have been the biggest binge I had ever seen. Box after box fell before her, many before she even sat down.
うん。
That little jump she did earlier was really adorable. The little jump they had her sprite do while eating. That was adorable. Sayaka was ingesting these fatty, sugary, processed foods at an alarming rate. I'd never seen one person eat so much food she shouldn't in such a short period of time.
さやか、どうしたの？もちろんなほたんも食べてね。どれも美味しいよ。そんなにお腹が空いていたの？甘いものがとにかく食べたくってね。カロリーが心配だけど、でも食べたいんだから仕方ないよね。まさかこれ全部食べるつもり？
I was legitimately scared by the sheer quantity of sweets still stacked on the cart. I mean, I love candy as much as the next person, but I was practically getting heartburn just looking at this massive haul.
ちゃんと全部食べるよ。ちょっとさやか、本気なの？
いい食べっぷりだな。足りなくなったら言ってね、さやか。すぐに追加を買ってくるから。
何を言ってるの、犬丸くん。こんなに食べさせたらさやかが太ってしまうじゃない。
心配ご無用だよ、さやのきさん。さやかならどれだけふくよかになっても可愛いに決まってるからね。ああ、でも抱きしめた時に両腕が届くくらいまでにしてもらえると俺としては嬉しいんだけど。
バカみたいなこと言ってないで、そっちの箱取って、犬丸。
はい、喜んで。あ、なんならあんしてあげるよ。ほら、マカロンを食べさせてあげよう。
それ犬丸の手垢がついたからいらない。あんた食べてね。
やったー、さやかが俺におやつをくれた。
ほんとかわいそうな人。
Inamaru was now holding the macaroon close to his heart, with a joyous expression on his face. I couldn't bear to look at him anymore, so I turned my attention back to Sayaka. I studied her as she continued to engorge herself, trying to determine how someone so typically mild-mannered had wound up in such a state. This was decidedly not normal behavior for her in any way. Something was definitely off.
それにしても何か違和感があるのだけれど。
The longer I stared at her, the more I was able to make out a faint shadow wavering just behind her.
レイ？
It was a low-level spirit, one that could easily slip by unnoticed if a highly trained observer weren't looking very, very closely. Specifically, it was the spirit of a little girl, and its attachment to Sayaka was quite weak. It wouldn't take a lot of effort to exercise.
うかつね、気づかなかったわ。
I was now fully convinced that Sayaka's superhuman appetite originated from that little girl.
さやか、礼を払うわ。じっとしていて。
I produced a talisman from my bag and was just about to throw it down. But Sayaka quite aggressively shook her head at the notion.
なほちゃんダメ！悪い例じゃないから。え？あのね、この子かわいそうなんだ。ずっと楽しみにしてた評判のスイーツを買った帰り道、居眠り運転の事故に巻き込まれて死んじゃったみたいでね。
Wait, why am I laughing? Wait, why did that make me laugh?
それ以来、美味しいスイーツが食べたくて仕方がなくて、成仏できないみたい。 力がなさすぎて長いこと人に取り付くこともできなくて、やっと元気を蓄えて取り付いたのが私だったんだよ。まさか同情しているの？ダメよさやか、霊に心を寄せては。だけどなほちゃん、同じ女の子ならわかるでしょ。ずーっと楽しみにしてたスイーツを手に入れたのに食べられなかったんだよ。そんなのってないよね。それはまあわからなくはないけれど。でしょ。だからね、私この子が満足するまでスイーツを食べてあげなきゃって思うの。ほら、こうやって甘いものを食べるとこの子幸せそうな顔するんだよ。
The girl behind Sayaka did seem genuinely pleased every time Sayaka popped something in her mouth. And there wasn't the slightest hint of malevolence from her. If anything, she projected a certain innocence that genuinely made even me kind of sympathize with her.
だからってさやかが太るのは嫌。
One of my secret joys was admiring Sayaka's magazine spreads. She always wore the most beautiful clothes, exhibiting a true sense of style and a true understanding of fashion in every photograph. Though I could hardly say that out loud. It was much too embarrassing.
さやか、どんな例にせよ取りつかれた状態はあまり良くないわ。やっぱり払った方がいいと思う。悪いことはできそうにない子だから平気だよ。
Come on! With the Course Party franchise, I mean, maybe Sayaka hasn't learned her lessons yet. But with any sort of ghost, especially in this franchise, if it's a little girl, oh, it's definitely going to be a deadly, deadly ghost at some point. If a person who's been possessed is covering for the spirit, that makes the exorcism much more difficult. Even potentially impossible, low level or no, my hands were more or less tied.
犬丸くん、さやかを説得したいのだけれど、手伝ってくれる？
説得？どうして？
さやかに霊がついたままなんて、あなただって嫌でしょ？
そうだね。あまりいい気分はしないけど、でも霊に同情するさやかの心優しさに俺は感動してしまったんだ。
まさかあなたまで霊を払わなくていいと思っているの？
だってあの子は悪霊じゃないからね。
さやかがカロリー過多でモデルを辞めることになってしまっても、あなたは構わないの？
もちろん問題ないよ。さやかがそれでいいって言うなら俺もそれでいいんだ。俺とさやかの心は二人で一つだからね。
あなたに相談した私がバカだったみたい。
My head began to hurt. And every second I watched Sayaka continue to devour her snacks, I became more and more inclined to stop her.
ここはもう強行策に出るしかない。
Sayaka might hate me for this, I thought, but that was a risk I was willing to take. My course of action decided upon, I took my stance, and prepared to send that girl along to the ever after. But before I could even begin to chant, an unexpected visitor arrived. Haha! This is where Aiko comes in. The classroom door was wide open, and there she stood, the infamous Aiko Niwa, wearing a uniform combination of kimono and school uniform. She was a self-proclaimed intelligence agent from class 3-5, and she had a lot of tendencies that I found distasteful. Specifically, she seemed to live for collecting spirit items, and just in general came across as a bit shady and manipulative, or at least that's how I always seen her. Mouthful of donuts, Sayaka nonetheless did her best to acknowledge the presence of this new arrival. She wasn't particularly fond of Aiko, however, as the two of them had butt heads previously. But Sayaka had a general love of beautiful girls, and Aiko ranked fairly high on her beauty scale, so she always seemed a little conflicted about that.
Aiko, 何しに来たの？
あら、そう冷たい声を出さないで、なほちゃん。私はただ帰ろうと思って階段を降りていたら甘い香りが漂ってきたから気になっただけよ。そうしたらなほちゃんたちに出くわしたの。これって運命かしら。
アイコさん、なほちゃんに色目使わないでください。
まあ、そんなことしてないわ。言いがかりはよしてね、さやかちゃん。
アイコ、さやかを煽らないで。
そんなつもりはないのだけど。
あのね、今はあなたの相手をしている暇はないの。
そうなの？
She tilted her head and examined the cart full of sweets, then compared its size to Sayaka's tiny frame.
あらあら、さやかちゃんは女力士役のオファーでも来たのかしら。
さやかが女力士。はあ。
Wait a second. No, wait a second. Wait, was that actually a thing? No, it wasn't Sayaka, it was Naho who dressed up in the sumo outfit, right? It was, Naomi and Aiko? Not Aiko, no, not Aiko, Naomi and Naho. Naho, hold up. I'll just go to Naho's page on the Wikipedia for, course party real quick. Hopefully I don't run into spoilers, but this Wikia actually is good about not showing spoilers. The course party Wikia, they're actually really good at not showing spoilers. Yes, okay, it was Naomi and, Naho. It was Naomi and Naho who were who dressed up in sumo. Well, I guess it's, Sayaka's turn. Sayaka seemed confused, and Inamaru seemed disturbingly intrigued. I just ignored them both and let out a huge sigh.
アイコ、よく見て。さやかの後ろに霊がいるでしょ。
あら、そう言われてみれば。まあ、随分と影の薄い霊だこと。
その子がさやかに取り付いて、これだけのスイーツを食べさせているのよ。払いたいのに、さやかが協力的じゃなくて困っていたところなの。
そういうことだったの。なら、ちょっと見せてもらえるかしら。
Aiko cautiously approached Sayaka and observed the spirit's behavior for a moment. Aiko's passion was the collection of spirit items infused with deep hatred and malice. So, if this little girl wound up being a little darker than she seemed, Aiko would undoubtedly snatch her away on the spot.
スイーツに執着心があるのね。そう。それで、自己死についてはどう思っているのかしら。
Aiko, no! Don't do that!
さぞ無念だったのでしょう。相手を殺してやりたいとか、呪ってやるとか考えているのではなく。
Aiko, no! Aiko, don't do that!
そう？じゃあ、誰かで構わず同じ目に遭えばいい、なんて風には思わない？あら。そうなの。
Aiko broke off the conversation shortly after this exchange, and walked back toward me with slumped shoulders.
ダメね。全然なってないわ。せっかく霊になったというのに、美味しいスイーツが味わえれば満足なのですって。信じられる？なほちゃん。彼女、 何も恨んでないっていうのよ。ありえないでしょ。そんな例に存在価値はないわ。
Aiko had completely lost interest, and she didn't seem to care that the little girl had heard every word she'd said. The spirit was on the verge of tears, shrinking back behind Sayaka to distance herself as much as possible from this hostile new presence.
そこまで愛子が言うってことは、本当に悪意は皆無なんでしょうね。だからね、ほんとかわいそうな子なんだよ。分かってあげて、ナホタン。
Sayaka spoke with a bit of I'm looking that word up. As soon as I saw it, I knew I was not going to pronounce it correctly. I knew this word was not going to be, pronounced correctly. I actually never heard of this. Oh. Staccato. Adjective. Performed with each note sharply detached or separated from the others. Sayaka spoke with a bit of staccato, her lips sticky with apple pie residue.
でもさやか、そのまま食べ続けてたら大変でしょ。そうかな。
さやかちゃんはその例がかわいそうだから除霊はしなくていいと考えているのね。
はい。
そうなの。なほちゃんがこんなに心を痛めているのに、あなたはその例に味方をするというわけなのね。ねえ、なほちゃん、さやかちゃんたらひどいわね。
Aiko smiled and sidled up next to me. She was clearly plotting something. She took my hand in hers and wrapped her fingers around it delicately.
あなたの気持ちを無下にする子なんて放っておいて、私とデートしましょう、なほちゃん。
Sayaka immediately shot to her feet, knocking over her chair in the process. And just like that, she no longer had the slightest interest in any part of the mountain of candy that lay sprawled out before her. This sudden shift separated the spirit from Sayaka as if the cord had been cut on a kite.
なほたん、デートするなら私としよう。今日は放課後オフだから。ね、構わないけど。やったー！なほたんとデート！
Sayaka hugged me excitedly, and I was overjoyed. It's always nice knowing how much other people really care about you. But then, for a brief moment, my eyes locked with those of the little girl's spirits floating in the air. And that's all it took.
いけない。
The spirit was quicker to act than I was to realize what I'd done. By the time I had, it was too late. She was already within me. Instantly, my stomach emptied, and I was intensely, massively hungry. The hungriest I'd ever been.
さやか、ごめん。ちょっとデートは待って。私それ食べないと。
I flew over to Sayaka's chair and threw open one of the stacked boxes. Jackpot! It was full of custard-filled cream puffs. I grabbed one and just shoved it into my mouth, with absolutely no regard for mess or manners. The rich custard melted in my stomach and the light. Delicate aroma filled my nostrils. But rather than sating my appetite, this delicious temptation only made it stronger.
おいしい。
あらあら、今度はあの子、なほちゃんについちゃったのね。
I had neither the time nor the desire to answer her question. I was too busy moving my hands and mouth, either eating sweets or formulating a game plan to eat further sweets more efficiently. But I couldn't exactly leave her hanging.
大丈夫。
After every bite, the girl possessing me expressed pure, absolute gratitude. I heard whispers from her to the effect of, "I'm so happy," and "Thank you so much." And I immediately realized this could be a real problem.
さやかが同情するのも仕方ないのかも。
The desire to continue eating, no matter what, made this spirit every girl's worst enemy. And the worst part was, you just couldn't say no to her. She was too relatable. Rarely had I ever encountered a spirit who elicited such sympathy that its host would choose not to part with it.
こっちのエクレアも美味しい。さやかはもういいの？私もうお腹いっぱい。っていうか、こんなに食べたっけ？
The number of open and empty boxes was either astounding or sickening, depending on your viewpoint.
さやか、見ていて気持ちのいい食べっぷりだったよ。
間違いなく体重が増えるでしょうね。楽しみだわ。お腹のぷよぷよ、ぜひ触らせてちょうだいね。
Food baby.
ダメです。私は触られるより触りたい派ですから。
Oh my god.
そうだったの、さやか。それじゃ今までは遠慮してたんだね。いいんだよ。俺をもっと触って撫でて抱きしめてくれたって。
今そんな話はしてないでしょ。
Inamaru was quickly knocked to the floor. Saika then ran right past him, over to me.
なほちゃん、それ以上食べないで。太るの反対。そんなこと言われても、食べたくて仕方がないのだもの。なほたんが太っちゃうなんてやだ。
No kitsy fatsy for you? No kitsy fatsy for you?
それは私も困るけど。
But my hunger could not be easily sated. My hands just wouldn't stop grabbing candies and sweets and desserts, one after another after another.
さやかが望むなら、俺があの礼を払おうか？
でも、払うのはやっぱりかわいそう。他に方法はないの？
憑依を剥がすこともできるけど、あの霊を放っておけばまた別の誰かに取り付くだろうね。
さやかちゃんがなほちゃん以外はどうなってもいいというのであれば、それでもいいんじゃないかしら。
それも困ります。どうしたらいいの？
Saiga took a contemplated stance, holding her head in her hands as she attempted to suss out a possible solution to this problem. And it didn't take her long to brainstorm something.
そうだ！成仏してもらえばいいんじゃない？
霊が満足するまでスイーツを食べ続けてもらうの？でも、それって今の状況と何ら変わりないわよね。
さやかとさえのきさんでだいぶ食べてるけど、まだ満足はしていないみたいだしね。
どれだけの量を食べたらあの子が満足するのか想像できないわ。
そうじ ゃなくて、あの子が食べられなかったのって美味しくて有名なスイーツだったんです。だから生前あの子が食べたことがないぐらい美味しいスイーツを味わえれば成仏するんじゃないかなって。ああ、なるほど。
The spirits seemed to be in agreement as well. She was nodding furiously. Even she had considered this plan previously, but she was clearly all aboard now.
近くに美味しいって評判のスイーツ屋さんなかったっけ？
この近所のスイーツならほとんど俺が買ってきたよ。さやかへの愛ゆえにね。
それでも成仏しないんだから、もっと美味しいものじゃないとダメってことなんだろうな。なほた、どこかいいお店知ってる？猫カフェレラ。それはまた今度2人でデートするときに行こうね。
Sayaka rejected my suggestion. Not that it was particularly likely to appease the spirit anyway, since the true point of the cafe wasn't its sweets, but its feline companions. Is this a callback to, Blood? Yeah, okay, this is Blood Drive. This is referencing the beginning of Chapter 4 of Blood Drive. After the concert, Sayaka and Naho go to that, cafe. If I'm correct. If I'm correct, they're referencing that.
ねえなほちゃん、それならやっぱり私とデートしましょう。
A ticket was handed to me, presented with a certain flair that suggested it must have been something special.
カフェホルタース？
That was the name. And the ticket also bore the date, as well as a 5:30 p.m. timestamp. Wait a second.
それは
Wait a second. Wait a second. This is really convenient, Aiko. This is really convenient, Aiko. Aiko! You are cooking something. You are cooking something. Sayaka clearly recognized the significance of what I'd just been handed.
隣の駅前の予約だけで1年待ちって評判のカフェホルタースの予約チケット。
Aiko, you clever motherfucker. Did you send this ghost out just get just get Naho a private invitation?
なんですって？
The piece of cake I had been eating fell from my now agape mouth and crumbled onto the floor. I remember hearing about this place during a TV feature.
開店当初、予約待ちの列が駅前を埋め尽くしたっていう
しかもこれ今日の予約じゃないですか。
愛子さん、どうしたんですかこれ？
お客様になり損ねた方から取り上げたのよ。
Aiko said this in a coy, playful voice, clearly riding the waves of Sayaka's excitement. She continued in this manner, outlining her story in greater detail.
頼まれていた情報を渡したら1円も払わずに連絡がつかなくなった方がいてね。そんなのってあんまりでしょ？だから滞納した分の利子も含めて貯金その他お金になりそうなものは片っ端から回収させてもらったの。
片っ端からですか？
そう。このチケットもその中の一つってこと。売りさばこうにも今日しか使えないチケットだし、それならたまには親しい人たちと美味しいものを食べたいわ。
親しい人たち。
Wait a second. Oh, she has more than one. I thought she only had one ticket. I'm sorry. I thought she only had one ticket for Naho. I thought she only had one ticket.
なほちゃんはもちろんだけど、さやかちゃんとはるゆきくんもご招待したいわ。どうかしら。いいん
ですか？
これを機に親睦を深めたいところね。
So she actually wanted to hang out with her friends. Aww. I actually feel bad for suspecting something suspicious.
だってなほちゃん、行ってみようよ。
さやかが行くなら俺も行くよ。 どこまでもついていくよ。だから安心してね、さやか。
あんたはお呼びじゃないってば。
As Sayaka beat the ever-loving snot out of Inamaru again, I took this opportunity to glance over at Aiko and study her for any signs of ulterior motive.
親しい人たちと言われるほどあなたと仲良くしたことはないと思うのだけれど。
I'd known Aiko for a while, but mostly just as a colleague in supernatural studies. I'd never gone out with her, nor even sat in and drunk tea with her, like I frequently would with Sayaka.
あら、なほちゃん、その目は何かしら。
アイコ、何を企んでいるの？
何も企んでなんていないわ。たまには礼具ではなく、人間のおしゃべりに付き合ってお茶を楽しみたいと思っただけよ。
そう？
ええ、それにね、なほちゃん。
Suddenly, she was right next to me, and with her porcelain-like fingers, she lifted the strawberry from the shortcake I was eating.
私たち親友ですものね。放課後にお茶をするくらいいいでしょ。
親友？
はい、
Instinctively, I did open my mouth, at which point the strawberry was gently placed on my tongue, and I found myself swallowing it without hesitation.
なほちゃんたら口元に生クリームがついているわよ。
She brought her finger up to my lips and wiped the cream from them. After which point, she stuck that same finger in her own mouth, savoring the secondhand cream she scored.
甘さ控えめで美味しいわね。
何するのよ。美少女同士のからの生クリーム。
I thought you would be mad. I thought you would be mad that Aiko was getting the cream from. She was getting the cream from Naho. I thought you'd be mad about Aiko getting Naho's cream. Sayaka, Naho's cream. I regret saying that. I really regret saying that. Sayaka shrieked and held her nose, presumably to keep it from bleeding. Which did seem to be a real concern, given how red her face had gone.
すっごくメロハーな光景でごちそうさまでした。でもダメ、アイコさん、ナホタンにこれ以上手を出さないで。
Okay, this was the reaction I was expecting.
さやか。
Sayaka burst between me and Aiko and hugged me with ferocious intensity. Her fresh citrus perfume tickled the inside of my nose as her supple breasts, roughly the same size as my own, pressed up against my face, which made it kinda hard to breathe for a moment.
さやか、苦しい。ごめんね、ナホタン。でもこうでもしないとナホタンまたアイコさんにってされちゃうもん。されないから。
二人とも相変わらず仲良しなのね。焼けちゃうわ。
Aiko's fast, pointy voice was only making matters worse with Sayaka, and in turn, I was getting more and more fed up with the whole situation. Which is about when I realized that my body had grown lighter.
憑依が取れた？
My concern over suffocating to death on Sayaka's boobs seemed to have diverted my attention away from all the delicious sweets. You know, When reading the line about almost being suffocated by a breast, I would expect to be reading the word breast instead of boobs. Like, I'm being honest here. I would have expected saying breast instead of boobs, but no, the translators put boobs instead of breast. I mean, at least they didn't put boobies. Or HONKABONKA HONKADONKS. Okay, translators out there, if you're a translator of any video game, you know what? I might start doing translations just so I can find a way to sneak in HONKADONKA HONKADONKS instead of breast. Like, I want to write HONKADONKA HONKADONKS instead of breast at some point in a translation. Or just in general. No, it doesn't even have to be a fucking translation. I want to see people using the term HONKADONKA HONKADONKS instead of breasts or boobs or boobies. Say HONKADONKA HONKADONKS instead. And it has to be in that tone. Like, when you're reading out loud, it has to be in the tone of HONKADONKA HONKADONKS instead of anything normal. Instead of saying something like HONKADONKA HONKADONKS, no, it has to be HONKADONKA HONKADONKS. Man, my concern over suffocating to death on Sayaka's HONKADONKA HONKADONKS seemed to have diverted my attention away from all the delicious sweets. And sure enough, it only took a moment of scanning the area around me to see the spirit girl, floating freely, looking a bit concerned. She seemed to be trying to decide between Aiko and Inamaru, the latter of whom was on the ground holding his stomach. Naturally, she chose to possess Inamaru this time.
Yes! 甘いものが食べたい
He quickly shot to his feet and ran full speed toward the remaining piles and boxes of candy and confectionaries.
でもこれ間違いなく太っちゃうね。こりゃ大変だ。さやか、メタボな俺でも愛してくれるよね。
私からのあーんも食べてくれるね。はい、口開けて。さやか、そういうのはせめて他に人がいないところで。気にしなくていいんだよ、なほと。ほら、恥ずかしくないから。さあ。
あれ、さやか聞いてないね。あ、わかった。一緒にダイエットに励む方がいいのかな。それじゃあ運動用にジャージを買いに行かなくっちゃね。どんなのがいいかな。やっぱりお揃いが。
勝手におかしな話を進めるのはやめて。
あなたたちっていつ見てもおかしいのね。見ていて飽きないわ。
And in this manner, the conversation devolved into pure anime tropes, remaining in such a state for the entire walk to Cafe HORTHATH. I like how they put Cafe HORTHATH in all caps. Like, instead of saying Cafe HORTHATH, it's written as Cafe HORTHATH! And in this manner, the conversation devolved into pure anime tropes, remaining in such a state for the entire walk to Cafe HORTHATH. Out of breath, we finally arrived at our destination only 5 minutes after the 5:30 reservation time. Fashionably late, some might say. Oh. We need a save. That's not good. Why did we need a save here? We pushed open the heavy doors and heard the clinking and clambering of a very unique door chime as we stepped across the threshold. A server quickly came and took Aiko's reservation ticket, then guided us to our seats.
もう我慢できそうにないよ。
Inamaru began sucking on some candy, while we waited to help stave off his insatiable hunger. When our menus arrived, he opened his in record time and began salivating. The dessert menu, which represented the majority of this cafe's famous offerings, was filled with items that aroused our appetites.
キャラメルハニーパンケーキのマロン添え、ベイクドドーナツのホットチョコレートフォンデュ、ミックスベリーワッフルと3種のソルベ、バナナオムレットのマンゴーソースがけ。どうしようなほた、どれもこれも美味しそう。目移りしちゃおう。さっきあんなにスイーツばかり食べていたのに注文せずにはいられないわね。
すみません、注文いいかしら。
Sayaka and I were still deciding, but Aiko flagged down a server anyway. He was an elderly man with a very professional, very respectful disposition, and strangely, I kind of felt like I recognized him.
お伺いいたします。
Of course, Marguerite has a sweet shop in her possession. Of course.
白玉と抹茶のレアチーズケーキを一つ、それとほうじ茶のミルクティーをお願いできるかしら。
かしこまりました。
俺はこっからこっちのページまでのメニューをとりあえず全部。
かしこまりました。
そんなに頼むの？
だってもうとにかく食べまくらないと餓死しそうなくらいお腹が減ったんだよ。
あ、そう。
他にご注文はございますか？
ナホタン決めた？あ、それじゃあカモミールティーとバナナオムレット。私はキイチゴのシフォンケーキとピーチティーで。
かしこまりました。少々お待ちくださいませ。
この人、やっぱりどこかで。
Were you able to find him? The server swiftly took his leave as I tilted my head, trying desperately to place him. This wasn't just someone I'd met once or twice, but numerous times. Yet, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out where or under what circumstances. Of course his name has to be Waldo. Maybe in the worldwide release of this game, he was named Wally.
ねえ、今の人、知った顔じゃなかった？
I posed the question to the table as a whole, but Sayaka and Inamaru just flashed me a strange look.
そうだっけ？あんな紳士なおじさま、一回見たら忘れない気がするけど、記憶にないな。
俺、さやか以外の人ってなかなか覚えられないからね。
アイコは？
私はよーく知っていてよ。
I study every single Where's Waldo installment every night. I'm a Where's Waldo expert!
ほら、あの子の付き人の方でしょ？
あの子？
I followed Aiko's finger with my eyes, and found myself face to face with a young girl wearing a Lilito-style dress, decorated liberally with ribbons.
こんにちは。さえぬきさんと愉快な仲間たち。あ
れ確か転校生の
水木まがりさん。
She studied our reactions for a moment, then got up from her chair and approached me. Mizuki had recently transferred to our class, though no one really knew much about her. Her features were doll-like, with perfect skin and complemented by that adorable outfit. She was cheek-pitchingly cute at first glance, but beneath the surface, she was ruthless and cruel.
さっきの店員は水木バルドさん、マガリさんの執事よ。
さすがね、ミワアイコ。バルドのことまで知ってるなんて、すごいすごい。
Oh, I know all too much about Waldo. She cackled and pulled over a chair from a nearby table. And suddenly, she was now sitting with us, like we were old friends catching up.
どういうこと？なぜあなたがここに？だってここ、私の店だもの。嘘。私、嘘なんてつかないよ。今のところはね。アイコ、知っていて連れてきたわね。
I gave her the stinkiest stink eye I could manage, but she just shrugged her shoulders nonchalantly.
知ってたわ。
何を企んでいるの？
何も企んでなんていなくてよ。
嘘をつかないで。ここがあの子の店だと知っていたらわざわざ来たりなんか。
あら、だってカフェホルタースのオーナーについてなんて誰も聞かなかったじゃない。
そんなの聞かなくたって言ってくださいよ。
I mean, I'm not surprised that Moguri owns a cafe with the Lovecraftian name. Let's be honest here. Sayaka puffed up her cheeks and stared at Aiko.
今のところ誰よりも関わりたくない子よね、水木さんは。
I previously found myself butting heads with Mizuki over supernatural matters, and naturally, Sayaka had gotten pulled into the fray as well. But strangely, so had Aiko. Yet now, all of a sudden, Aiko had invited us to a cafe owned by Mizuki, which suggested to me that she had some nefarious plan in mind.
カフェのオーナーなんて水木さんはお金持ちなんだね。
Inamaru, naturally again, was only one of us totally out of the loop about her. He thought nothing of making small talk with someone like he thought nothing of making small talk with someone he presumably saw only as a classmate.
別にこれくらい普通でしょう。っていうか、あなた誰だっけ？
犬丸春之、さやかの前世からの恋人だと覚えてくれれば問題ないよ。
へえ、前世からの。
そう、前世からの。なんせさやかと俺の小指は赤い糸でぐるぐるにつながっているんだ。
あなた面白い。水木さん、この犬コロは虚言癖の塊だから全スルー推奨で。彼、本当のこと言ってると思う？私が言うんだから間違いない。
Mizuki smiled brightly. It was hard to tell whether she was serious or just trying to mess with Sayaka. The look in her eyes was plainly that of an evil mastermind, yet her smile was absolutely perfect and beautiful in every way, which somehow made it all the more unsettling.
ところで、なぜあなたは勝手に同席しているの？だって私もみんなとお友達になりたいもん。私たちにあんなことをしておいてよくもそんな。やだ、私だけ仲間外れなの。クラスメートなのに。そういうのっていじめって言うんでしょ。ひどいな。そういうつもりじゃなくて、ただ私はつもりじゃないってことは悪意なきいじめなの。やだ、そっちのがよっぽどタチ悪い。さやかってそんな子だっけ？
Sayaka's cheeks swelled up, bit by bit. They almost looked like you could prick them with a pin, and they popped wide open.
さやか、こらえて。でもなほたん。私も彼女はいけすかないから気持ちはわかるけれど。
You know what I find interesting? I find it interesting that Sayaka refers to Naho as Naho-tan. Or is she saying Chan and I'm hearing it as Tan? Okay, I need to hear her say, Naho one more time. But I think she's saying Naho-tan.
彼女はあなたたちのクラスメートなのよね。それならあんまり邪険にしてはかわいそうよ。
愛子さんは話がわかるみたいね。愛子、あなたどっちの味方なの？
そんなの決まっているでしょ。愚問だわ。私はより私のためになりそうな事柄の味方よ。マガリさんと仲良くしておけば礼具関係の話が聞けるかもしれないでしょ。何より誰かを仲間外れにして飲むお茶はあまり美味しくないでしょうしね。
そうそう、愛子さんの言う通り。
なんでみんなそんなに仲が悪そうなんだい？
Inamaru was clueless, and it would take far too long to explain the situation to him. So I figured it was easier just to ignore him completely. I looked everyone else square in the eye for a second, though, ultimately settling on Sayaka. She was in tears.
さやかが泣くほど嫌がっているなら答えは一つよね。やっぱり水木さんには遠慮してもらう。オーナーのお願いを断るってことはさ、バナナオムレットはいらないってことでファイナルアンサーって意味になるのよ。さやかにもシフォンケーキ食べさせてあげない。いいの？ついでに他の2人が注文したものも全部キャンセル。
Oh, wow!
ねえ、でもこんなにお腹が空いてるのに。
そんなの知らない。腹ペコなら外でチープなジャンクフードでも詰め込めばいいじゃん。卑怯よ、水木さん。
I didn't want to be this confrontational, but I didn't see that I had much choice. Besides which, it really was a dick move. We came all the way here, but because we weren't sucking up to the owner, we had to leave without eating anything. That's just unprofessional. It shouldn't have even been an option.
わかった。あなたの同席は許してもいいけれど。本当？ただし条件があるわ。
I wanted to eat the supposedly legendary sweets, but Sayaka was too near and dear for me to just let this go on Mizuki's terms. So I decided to do some bargaining.
あなたが私たちの神経を逆なでするようなおかしなことをしでかさないと約束するのなら許可してもいい。
Mizuki's eyes widened, and a grin crept across her face.
おかしなことって例えばこういう？
She moved faster than my eyes could see. Suddenly, she had my arm and was pulling me in close. And then, before I knew it, I was feeling a continuous warm and squishy sensation on my cheek.
ほっぺ、なほちゃんのほっぺだ。
Damn, everyone's after Naho in this episode.
まあ、お熱いこと。
すごいなあ。最近の女子ってほっぺにチューのスキンシップくらい普通のことなの？え？さやか？
さやかちゃんたら刺激の強い場面を目撃して言葉が出ないのかしらね。メロハーンも飛び出さないなんて本当にショックなのね。かわいそうに。それにしても あなたたちはいつまでそうしているのかしら。
This was around when I finally came back to my senses. Instead of just a simple peck on the cheek, Yuzuki had been sucking my skin this entire time. And now that this realization had finally dawned on me, I immediately pushed her away.
何をしているの？離れて。何をするの？さえのきさんのほっぺ美味しそうだったから味見。
Finally distanced from my cheek, she glared ferociously at me, seemingly sizing me up to determine whether or not I was worthy of remaining in her establishment. Evidently, I'd passed the test, as she finally raised her arm into the air and snapped her fingers, signaling to her butler.
マルド、持ってきて。
かしこまりました。
I like how they all of a sudden added old Butler and Waldo for some reason. On Mizuki's command, the butler-cum-server arrived with a literal wagon full of sweets. Mizuki stood up, still smiling gleefully, as various plates and teacups were neatly, almost ceremoniously placed in front of each of us.
うわー、美味しそう。もういいかな？食べていいかな？俺は限界なんだけど。
どうぞ召し上がれ。カフェホルタースのスイーツは皆様に極上のひとときを提供するわよ。
いただきまーす。
Okay, I wasn't gonna point this out, but the translation definitely does not match up with the Japanese words, for which I have no problem with. I actually kind of like the English translations, but as I'm slowly learning more and more Japanese, I can recognize how off the translations kind of can be, though they're not bad. Like, it still has the same context. Like, these still have similar context to what the characters are saying, but ikadakimasu is not the same as sweet. Like, no, that does not even fucking work. Ikadakimasu sweet is not a similar kind of thing. Inamaru wastes no time digging into dish after dish, barely stopping to chew his food before shoveling another forkful in his mouth. Disaster or no, it was a terrifying sight to behold.
うまいよ、みずきさん。
お口に合ったようで何より。他のみんなもさあ食べて。さえのきさんには特別に私の手で食べさせてあげようか。結構よ。遠慮しないでよ。親友同士ならそれくらい普通にやるものでしょ。そもそも前提がおかしいわ。一体いつ誰があなたと親友になったのよ。
まあ、なほちゃんったらまた親友候補を作ったの？モテるのね。親友の一人としては心配だわ。
アイコ、あなたとも親友になったつもりはないわよ。
照れ隠しが上手なのね、なほちゃんったら。
別に照れてなんか。ああ、そっか。さえのきさんのそういう態度って照れ隠しなんだ。ポーカーフェイスだから分かんなかったわ。ああ、もう否定するのも面倒になってきた。
I had a splitting headache at this point, and I could think of no better cure for it than vast quantities of sugar. I took my knife and fork and cut off a big piece of my banana omelet, shoving it in my mouth and, well, switching it around a little to savor it.
つ初めてかもしれない。
The sweetness of the soft sponge cake and the richness of the cream melted together in my mouth to create a veritable symphony of flavor. And mixed in with it was the bittersweet banana itself, the crown atop this royal treat.
どうしよう、手が止まらない。でしょ？
Surprisingly, Mizuki's expression had changed to something altogether more innocent than before as she delightedly ingested spoonfuls of sweet confection. Hers was a parfait topped with a cavalcade of grapes.
我ながら美味しい。マガリンちゃん、天才。あなたが作ったわけじゃないでしょ。
I held my tongue. Better not to stir the pot right now. To help keep me quiet, I shoveled another piece of omelet into my mouth.
本当に美味しい。これは予約必須のお店になるだけあるわ。
My dessert was basically flawless. And though I was very, very full, I just couldn't stop going back for more.
こういうのも一回くらいは悪くないかもね。え？お茶とスイーツをお供にして友達と放課後を過ごすの新鮮だわ。私いっつも一緒にいるのはバルトだけだから。
That's right! I also, every evening and every night, study the Where's Waldo books, endlessly, finding them, again and again. Every time a new edition comes out, I just continue on my endless quest to find Waldo.
そう。楽しいからこの席はおごってあげる。みんなどんどん食べてね。
ごちそうさま。
それじゃあお言葉に甘えて。
I have to admit, this caught me off guard. I never expected someone like Mizuki to be so amiable. I forked another omelet piece into my mouth, feeling cautiously triumphant. Soon enough, I was not only beyond sated, but happy as well. Looking around, the others seemed to be in high spirits as well. Except for... yeah. Sayaka, who still hadn't even picked up her fork.
さやか、どうしたの？納得いかない。あ、なほちゃんの一番の親友は私だよね。
Startled by the question, I made the mistake of hesitating in my answer. It wasn't a lie. All anyone had to do was watch the two of us in action, and it was obvious we were as close as friends could be. But Sayaka saw my hesitation as a clear indicator that I was lying. She took it as an implied no, and her self-confidence suddenly fell through the floor.
一番じゃなかったら私なほちゃんの何番目なのかな。違うのさやか、誤解しないで。もちろん私の一番の親友はさやかよ。そうに決まってるじゃない。本当？本当よ。だからほら、泣かないで。泣いてないもん。
I guess she got me there. She wasn't crying, but she looks like a volcano about to erupt. She continued to study my expression for a while, with her vaguely watery saucer eyes.
それじゃあ次のオフは一緒に猫カフェに行ってくれる？あ、もちろん。そんなことでよければいくらでも。猫カフェに行く前にお揃いの服を買ってその場で着てくれる？あ？ペアルックで遊んでくれるよね。一番の親友だもんね。人目につかないと ところならなんとか可能かもしれないけど、猫カフェはちょっとお揃い嫌なんだ。そんなことないわ、さやか。わかった、お揃いにしましょう。ペアルックもたまにはいいかもしれないしね。あとアイコさんにやってもらってた猫カフェ私ともやってくれる？
This time, I was kind of at a loss for words.
猫カフェなんて人目の多いところでペアルックで、さらに何？どういうこと？愛子さんがさえなぎさんにしたの？
そうね、ここに来る前に教室でそんなこともした気がするけれど、でももう済んだ話だと思っていたわ。さやかちゃんたらそんなに根に持たなくたっていいのに。
愛子さんがやったんなら私もしたい。さえのきさん、ちょっと口開けて。ダメ！これ以上なほちゃんにちょっかい出そうって言うなら私を倒してからにして。
いいの？
待って、話がややこしくなるからさやか以外は黙っていてもらえると助かるんだけど。
Sayaka and Mizuki looked like they were about to face off in epic combat. So I decided enough was enough and stepped in to put a stop to it. And in doing so, I realized that the other customers in the establishment had fallen silent as well, and were all staring at us. That wasn't as much as a surprise as it probably should have been, though, given how loud we were being.
さやか、少し落ち着きましょう。落ち着いてるよ。いいえ、今あなたは頭に血が上っている。ケーキでも食べて落ち着いて。ほら、美味しそうじゃない。
I tried to divert her focus to one of the chiffon cakes. Chiffon? How do you pronounce this? Chiffon! Okay, you do not pronounce the chi, it's chiffon. Oh. And, of a cake of dessert made with beaten egg whites to give a light consistency. Or we can refer to it as its casual noun form, which is a light, sheer fabric, typically made of silk or nylon. But they're going with the cake and dessert description. I tried to divert her focus to one of the chiffon cakes we'd received, but Sayaka just kept her gaze firmly glued to mine. Then, she leaned in toward me, the spark of an idea flashing across her face.
案が嫌なら水木さんみたいにほっぺチューがしたい。ね、なほちゃん、していいでしょ
Sayaka approached me quickly, and I instinctively shrank back into my chair a bit.
さやか、お願いだから落ち着いて。落ち着いてる。なほたんのほっぺは私が消毒してあげる。何それ、聞き捨てならないわね。私の唇にケチつけるの？あんたにもチューするわよ。私はなほたん以外とはチューしないもん。だからなほたんも私以外とはダメ。さやか、そういうことは大声で叫ばないで。だって
ならこうしましょう。全員がなほちゃんにあんをしてほっぺにキスをすればいいのよ。そうすれば不公平じゃなくなるでしょ。
何ですのよ、アイコ。そうですよ、アイコさん。それじゃ意味ないです。
でもさやかちゃん、よく考えてみて。あなたが今悲しい思いをしているのは、私やマガリさんがなほちゃんにちょっかいを出したのにあなただけが出せていないことが原因でしょ。
そうですけど。
でもね、私もマガリさんだけがなほちゃんにキスをしているのはどうかと思うし、マガリさんもなほちゃんにあんがしたいはずなのよ。
A compromise for getting
だ
Naho.
から全員がなほちゃんにやっていないことを行ってひとまず不公平感をなくせばいいと思うの。そうしたらなほちゃんに特別なことをしたっていう立ち位置の人がいなくなって平和が訪れるはずよ。
そっか。私は血みどろ骨肉の争いを繰り広げてもいいんだけど。
でもマガリさん、友人同士は時にこうやってお互いが譲歩し合うことで絆が強くなるものらしいのよ。
Is it me, or does it seem like Naho basically can rival Satoshi in harem? Like Naho has as big as a harem as Satoshi.
そうなの？
This entire conversation was raising a lot of questions for me, and not just the obvious ones. Mizuki barely even seemed to know what the word compromise meant. And Aiko seemed to be basing her understanding of it entirely on hearsay. Was it really possible that neither of them had actually compromised on something before?
どんな生活を送ってきたのよ。
だからさやかちゃん、あなたはなほちゃんにあんをしてほっぺにキスをしてもいいわ。その代わり私もなほちゃんのほっぺにキスをするわね。そしてマガリさんはなほちゃんにあんをする。これで全員平等、一見落着ね。
なんでそうなるのよ。仕方ないな。今日は友達記念日ってことで特別だよ。それで譲歩してあげる。わかった。私も愛子さんの意見に乗る。さやかまで何を言っているの？みんななほちゃんの特別になりたいけど我慢してるんだもんね。大丈夫、私も我慢できるよ。さやか、聞いてる？それじゃあなほたん、よろしくお願いします。
Saka stood up from her seat and grasped my shoulders with both hands. She had a serious, solemn look in her eyes.
さやか、まずはほっぺチューするね。その後あんしよう。
次は私の番ね。さやかちゃんの後ろに並んでおこうかしら。
私も後が使えてるんだからさやかは早くしてよね。
Aiko and Mizuki rose from their seats and queued up behind Sayaka. The actual other customers looked very uncomfortable. They were half watching, half intentionally averting their eyes, and seemingly uncertain which approach was more proper.
いただきます。
Sayaka's face slowly approached mine. It was only a kiss on the cheek, but her expression was that of a medical surgeon focusing on a patient, which made me extremely, inexplicably nervous.
待って、私にも心の準備が。
But I wasn't going to get any. Sayaka was about to Sayaka was about to bring it in for our landing, and there was no stopping her now.
来るなら来い。
Like a warrior preparing to go into battle, I tightly closed my eyes and awaited my destiny.
あ、
Inamaru's sudden, unexpected exclamation caused me to jump, and seemed to pause Sayaka's advance as well. When I opened my eyes, I could see that Sayaka was not at all happy with her childhood friend.
何よ犬丸、今いいところなのに。
Is the ghost being actually? Wait, is the ghost passing on right now?
助かった。
Oh my god. I breathed a breathless sigh of relief and turned to face Inamaru. He'd been eating his mountain of sweets in silence this whole time, but was now pointing outside the window.
あそこ。
We each followed his finger to the sky. Dyed with the setting sun, the heavens above were a beautiful shade of crimson-infused purple. And there, right where he was pointing, we could see a small distortion in the air.
あれは。
うん。スイーツが美味しかったみたいで、成仏するって。
We'd completely forgotten about the spirit girl with the weak aura. She had an enormous grin on her face, and met our gazes with a courteous bow, then disappeared into the sunset. Aww. Oh, that's sweet. Of course, chapter 4 is the sweet one. Wait, no. Hold up. No, chapter 3 was the sweet one of Book of Shadows, and the entire game of Sweet Sachiko was sweet in general. God, this is actually a sweet chapter. Pun unintended. As we left the cafe, the sun was only just peeking out over the distant horizon, growing smaller and dimmer by the moment. We never did find out which particular confection was the one that brought eternal rest to the little girl, but that also wasn't important. All that mattered was, she'd move on.
それじゃあ水木さん、今日はごちそうさま。どれもとっても美味しかった。どういたしまして。
お腹いっぱいになったわ。こんなに甘いものばかり食べたら、私もプニプニお腹になっちゃうかしら。
しばらく甘いものは控えなくちゃかも。
でも、また食べたくなるくらい美味しかったよ。
予約は1年きっかり埋まってるから、すぐの来店は無理でしょうね。そんな、あの子が成仏しちゃうくらい美味しいお店なのに。そんなに褒められると悪い気しないな。私の権力で予約をねじ込んであげてもいいよ。ほんと？その代わり、はいチーズ。
Zuki's phone produced a sudden flash, and before I knew it, my picture had been taken.
何？どういうつもり？
I'm getting my background, bitch!
今日の記念よ。いいでしょ？
She spun her phone around to show me the screen, and my face instantly turned red hot. It was a candid shot of me reacting to the sudden flash, with a look of total confusion on my face. And it was apparently now her wallpaper. Oh my god! It actually did become a guy with his wallpaper! Oh my god, I was joking! I was joking!
こんな間抜け顔。ずるい！なほたん、私も撮らせて！充電切れてる。さやかついてない。いいもん、明日にするから。
でも今日の思い出は今日しか残せないものよ。
さやか、代わりに俺の携帯で撮っておこうか。もちろん俺の携帯はさやかしか映さないから、撮影対象はさやかだけど。
それじゃ意味ないでしょ。
そんなことないよ。俺が幸せになるよ。
あんたの幸せなんてどうでもいいし。
冷たい。
もう肝心な時になんて。
She put away her phone in disappointment, defeated and forlorn. This seemed to have been an oddly rough day for her. Photobooth time.
水木さんといたらさやかによくなさそうね。それじゃあそろそろ帰りましょう。水木さん、またね。バイバーイ。
Mizuki waved her hand in an exaggerated motion, then slinked back into the cafe.
なんだかどっと疲れたわ。同じく。
そう？俺は放課後をさやかと過ごせてとっても楽しかったけどな。
犬はお気楽でいいわよね。
Sayaka silently implied, "I'm done with you!" elicited a wry smile from me. She was clearly too tired to care how her words came across. I actually felt kind of bad for Inamaru, but I couldn't help appreciating Sayaka's current state of mind. Maybe we were just a tad more simpatico. Simpatical. Adjective. Of a person. Likeable and easy to get along with. Having or characterized by shared attributes or interests. Compatible. Maybe we were just a tad more simpatico than I'd given us credit for.
私も結構楽しかったのだけど、なほちゃんとさやかちゃんは違うのね。残念だわ。
へえ、新しいレイグを手に入れたわけでもないのに楽しかったの？
悪くはなかったわ。低級霊がいたり、マガリさんに引っかき回されたこともあったけど、親しい人たちとお茶をして放課後を過ごすのは初めてだったもの。
アイコさん、こういう風に放課後を過ごしたことなかったんですか？
I never had friends.
ええ、そうなの。
でもアイコさん、そんなに美少女なのにどうして？
Sayaka's compliment was met with a slight smile. Though it could have just as easily been a pained smile, for all I know, since I'm sure this was dredging up some memories Aiko would have rather not thought about. Sayaka's comment definitely came from a place of pure innocence, however. In her mind, cute girls always drink tea and spend time with their friends after school. It's only natural.
私は普段情報収集で忙しいから、放課後こうして遊ぼうとすることがそもそもないのよ。それに、霊が見えない一般人と積極的に関わる気も起きないし。
Sayaka stopped dead in her tracks. This seemed to shock her a lot more than it should have. Her expression was almost cartoonish. Aiko looked back at her quizzically, tilting her head a bit.
あら、そんなにおかしなことを言ったかしら。
わかりました、アイコさん。私たち、今日から友達です。
え？
ねえ、なほちゃん、いいでしょ？アイコさんは私たちの友達。
I heard the Chan this time. Instead of Tan, I heard Chan. Does she call Naho-chan or Naho-tan? I don't know.
まあ。
Given my long, turbulent history with Aiko, I wasn't really sold on the idea of counting her among my friends now. And my response wasn't exactly brimming with positivity, but I was kinda put on the spot, so I think it was as fair a response as could be expected. I didn't want to upset Sayaka, after all, but the question was, how would Aiko-san react to this?
私がなほちゃんやさやかちゃんと友達になるの？
ダメですか？
でも私、ご存知の通りとても性格が悪いのよ。
さやかがいいって言ってるんだからいいんじゃないの？友達だと思えばもう少し私たちに対するあなたの態度も変わるかもしれないし。
それはどうかしら。
A decidedly dubious statement to make, but she didn't seem to realize how it might have come across.
私とあなたたちが友達ね。くすぐったいわね。友達。
Also, I messed up earlier. I called Aiko Aiko-san, for which Naho does not call Aiko Aiko-san. She calls Aiko Aiko. She doesn't use honorific. I made a mistake, I'm sorry.
友達ってそう何度も連呼しないで。恥ずかしいでしょ。
はいはーい。俺もここにいるよ。
Sorry, Inamaru. You're no longer part of the group.
これは女同士の友情なんだから男はお呼びじゃないの。
つまりさやかは 俺に女の子の友達がいたら焼いてしまうから、庭さんとは知事以上にはなるなと、そう言いたいんだね。
ほんとあんたってうざ
い。やわっ
Ooh, that was a good punch. Sayako's explosive punches were flying pretty furiously today, it seemed. Staring down at the now KO'd Inamaru, she suddenly lit up with the brightest smile I'd seen from her since leaving the cafe.
さて、ここで提案があります。今日の記念にみんなでプリシャを撮るっていうのはどうでしょう？
Yes, this is where the phone booth comes in. Photo booth! That is quite the face that woman is making in that photo booth. That is quite the face. Actually, no, I don't want people to screenshot that face. Along a bustling street nearby, we found an arcade with a nice, shiny row of sticker photo booths inside. I suspected Sayaka may have chosen this particular arcade for a very specific reason, however, as there was a large sign by the door which read, "No men allowed."
ってことで、犬丸、男子禁制だからここで待ってて。
いや、ちょっと待って、よく見ようよ。女性が一緒の場合は男性も立ち入り OK ですって、ほら、ここに書いてあるよ。
じゃあ、なほちゃん、あいこさん、行こっか。
We left Inamaru at the entrance, despite his attempts to follow us inside, and we headed straight for the sticker photo booths.
ちょっと、かわいそうじゃない？いいの。犬丸も入れてプリシャなんて撮ったら何に使われるか分かったもんじゃないもの。一理あるわね。
Aiko provided no argument either, so we all just shrugged up Inamaru's misfortune. I then stepped up into one of the few booths that was unoccupied, signaling the other two to follow.
これで撮ろうか。あいこさん、こっちです。入ってきてください。
随分と眩しいのね。
Aiko was mesmerized by the booth, squinting as she looked over the lights along the screen.
あいこさん、プリシャは初めてですか？
ええ、知識としては理解しているつもりだけれど。
じゃあ、注意事項を一つ。映るときはモニターじゃなくて上にあるカメラに目線を合わせてくださいね。
わかったわ。
Aiko nodded, though her movement felt calculated and stiff. She was clearly very nervous.
そういえば、私も初めてプリシャを撮ったのはさやかとだっけ。最初は緊張するのよね。綺麗に撮れたら友達記念って書きましょうね。なほちゃんとも初めて撮った時はそう書いたんですよ。ね、なほたん。
She is saying Naho-tan! That just proves it! That just proves it! She calls Naho Naho-tan, not Naho-chan, Naho-tan. Alright, that makes a lot of sense. Naho-tan. Oh, it's because she's a rider. It's because she's a rider. Maybe? Or I'm totally misunderstanding the tan honorific in the sense that Sayaka is using it, because the tan honorific is mostly used to refer to journalists or writers, from what I know of the tan honorific. So, yeah, it's kind of cute, though. Okay, let's be honest here. Calling Naho Naho-tan is kind of cute. Like, it's kind of cute for Sayaka to call Naho that. So, yeah, it's actually really cute.
そうなの。
Aiko's quick response felt hollow and forced. She was still stiff as a board, like her spirit had been left behind somewhere. In a way, her awkward hesitation had a certain charm to it. It proved that she was being genuine, that she was human.
せっかくですし、3人で抱き合ったりとかして写りませんか？
ええ。
背景はどうしようか。なほたんのお好みで。了解。
I made a few quick selections, Then the background behind Aiko changed. She must not have known about that part. It was actually kind of funny.
それじゃあ撮るよ。愛子さん早くもっとこっち。
And 3, 2, 1. Lift off! After several flashes and clicks, an image of us was displayed on the monitor. In it, Sayaka and I were hugging, but Aiko was standing behind us with a furtive look in her eyes.
愛子さんなんで抱きついてくれなかったんですか。
そうだった。
Oh, this is actually really sweet. Sorry, Aiko, I didn't mean to talk over you, but this is really sweet.
緊張したんでしょう。
そういうわけじゃないのよ。
Aiko's mouth said no, but her blood-red cheeks said otherwise. This was the first time I'd ever seen Aiko flustered.
もう一回撮り直しましょうか。
いいえ、これでいいわ。等身大の私たちという感じで面白いじゃない。
Aiko touched the monitor with her finger and laughed.
じゃあ今日はこれくらいにしておきましょうか。水木さん、これを見たら悔しがるかな。それが目的だったの？違うよ。あくまで目的は愛子さんと友達になった記念。
Sayaka spun gleefully in place and held one hand out to Aiko.
愛子さんとは最初の出会いがあまり良くなかったけど、でも根はそんなに悪い人じゃないと思うから、これからいい友達になってくれたら嬉しいです。よろしくお願いします。この子のこういうところが好き。
I'd always had a tendency to either be way too blunt or way too familiar with people, bringing them down to my level without even realizing it. But on numerous occasions, I truly felt like Sayaka had saved me from myself.
よろしくね、さやかちゃん。それから、なほちゃんも。
She also saved Aiko. Aiko shook hands with Sayaka and smiled at me.
よろしく。
Okay, that's the first time I've seen that sort of thing go on. Cold and blunt as usual. But I could feel the red spreading across my face, and I was certain Sayaka and Aiko knew how I felt, regardless. Naho's face turning red, and Sayaka smiling gleefully. Two beautiful, endlessly expressive images, gone forever.
夢のような一日だったわ。
The funny thing is, nothing of note had really even happened. We just ate a whole lot of sweets, talked for a long time, and took sticker photos. All told, we only spent a few hours with each other. Just a few wild hours, messing around after school one day.
だけど、もう二度とあの時間は戻ってこない。
Naho and Sayaka were now dead, and their deaths triggered an intense despair, hatred, and sheer insanity within Haruki, all of which was directed squarely at me.
あの日は確かに笑い合っていたのに。
Where had things gone wrong? Somewhere along the line, somebody must have made some kind of mistake. But who?
私のせい。
許さない、許さない、絶対に許さない。
I had to apologize. Both to the girls who'd already died, and to the person who had gone mad right in front of my eyes. I couldn't even get the whole word out. The sheer depths of his rage bore into my skull, and out I went, like a light. How did she survive that? After Chapter 04, Memories Like Beautiful Dreams end. How did she survive that? How did she survive? Soulful testimony from Ayano Yamamoto has been unlocked. New Encyclopedia Obscura entries have been unlocked. Sako Ue, Kyokibiki, Nao Sainoki, Shogo Taguchi. Yay! Taguchi! Taduki! Alright, let's read these Encyclopedia Obscura articles and then end this video. Alright, so, okay. Sayaka Ue. Sayaka Ue works as a talent in modeling and in radio, and is best friends with Naho. Naho only ever shows her true colors to Sayaka, and Sayaka seems to be the only person she implicitly trusts. Because of this, when Naho goes to Heavenly House in order to rescue Mr. Kibiki, Sayaka is more than willing to tag along. Sayaka Ue. Next would be... oh, Kyokibiki. Kyokibiki. An occult novelist, there we go, reporter and mentor to Naho, travels to Heavenly Host with his cameraman, Taguchi, and on Naho's intel, but is sadly killed there by the pursuant Naho herself. Kyokibiki. Next is... oh, Naho Sainoku. Naho Sainoku! In a twisted bid to help her mentor and crush, Kyokibiki now spreads the Sachiko and the after charm across the internet. Though not a bad person deep down, her feelings for Mr. Kibiki cause her to make terrible decisions, including one that ultimately gets herself, her friend Sayaka, and even Mr. Kibiki killed. Now Sainoki. And last is Taguchi Taduki. Shogo Taguchi, a cameraman who assists Kibiki in his research, accompanies him to Heavenly Host and captures various horrors on camera, including raw footage of Seiko's death. Why did you have to remind me? Why did you have to remind me? Oh, where is she? Wait, where is she? Where's my girl? Where's my girl? Don't tell me my girl disappeared on me. That's Mayu. Oh, Seiko! Yay! Okay, I have to end this episode with at least seeing my girl. Come on, why would you mention my girl Seiko?
Okay, okay.